Ken is a regular guy who accidentally gets summoned to another world, and as a weak healer no less. But when a powerful and busty mommy gives him harsh training, he becomes overpowered and claps the demon lord. Everything starts when Ken is walking home from school. He is thinking about how mediocre his life is when it starts raining, and he has to take shelter in a locker room. Right at that moment, the most popular duo at school, Suzune and Kazuki, notice that Ken does not have an umbrella. They give him an extra umbrella and offer to walk home with him. On the way, Ken is amazed that such popular people are treating a loser like him so well. Just then, Suzune and Kazuki suddenly stop because they hear bells. But Ken hears nothing at all. He thinks they are hearing things. A few seconds later, a magic circle forms under their feet, and all three of them get teleported in front of a king. The king's name is Lloyd, and he tells them they have been summoned as heroes to fight the demon lord's army. Suzune is very thrilled hearing this, while Kazuki gets angry and says to send him back to the original world so he can delete his browser history. When Lloyd explains that the summoning ritual is one way, Kazuki gets even more furious. The king gets on his knees before them and promises he will find a way to send them back. He asks for their help, but Kazuki reminds him they are just ordinary students. Just then, Lloyd's court mages explain that summoning magic only targets people who have main character aura. Only people with exceptional abilities can hear the summoning bells. Hearing this, Ken says that he heard no bells at all, and then it hits him that he was accidentally summoned. A little while later, the court mage asks the heroes to test their magical affinity with a crystal ball. Suzune excitedly goes first. The ball glows yellow. The court mage says she has the power of Zeus. Suzune grins. Kazuki also touches the ball and it glows white. The court mage explains he has received light magic which demons fear, just like you stinky losers fear taking a shower. Finally, Ken places his hand and the ball glows green. When he looks at the court mage grabs Ken's hand in a panic and sprints toward the throne room. When she tells Lloyd, the king nervously tells Ken he should leave this kingdom for his own safety. Ken gets confused because everything is happening so fast. Just then, a busty green-haired mommy named Rose kicks the door open and enters while Elden Ring boss music plays in the background. She casually walks in and asks Lloyd about the heroes. Lloyd is so scared he cannot even speak. The court mage answers on his behalf that the heroes are in another room. Rose leaves, but Ken is still confused and asks the king what the green glow on the ball means. Everyone in the room freaks out again. Rose overhears this and comes back wanting to take Ken with her. Lloyd immediately orders the court mage to take Ken to safety. The court mage locks Ken in a bubble and sends him off, but Rose runs and catches him. She tells the king she will train this kid and turn him into a proper gigachad and takes him away. Nobody has the guts to stop her. Later, the court mage tells Suzune and Kazuki that Ken has an affinity for healing magic, which is rarer than a pink sheep in Minecraft. Rose herself is also a rare healer and has taken Ken to train him as her subordinate. The problem is she is very harsh. That night, Rose tells Ken she is recruiting him into her rescue team. Then she introduces him to her band of slaves. The guys start trying to intimidate Ken, but Rose shuts them up and tells Ken that training starts tomorrow, so be ready. Ken has no choice and agrees. He goes to sleep not knowing that Rose is about to pound him without a safe word. The next day, Suzune and Kazuki come to Rose's place to check on Ken. Ken says he is exactly where he wants to be. Both of them are relieved. Suzune wishes him good luck and mentions that his training starts today. Ken says she is bustin' in that outfit. Kazuki thanks Ken for the motivation and both of them head back to the royal palace. The moment they leave, Rose appears. Ken starts trembling from fear because Rose's presence is absolutely terrifying. She gives him a journal and tells him to write down her training regimen as well as what he feels during training. A little while later, Ken goes to the training ground with Rose. Rose tells him to feel warmth around the heart. She explains that is his mana. Right now he cannot channel it. Then she gives him a book to read. Ken says he cannot understand the language of this world, but when he opens the book he can read it. Rose explains that all heroes come with a pre-built auto-translator. She shows Ken the boundary between Linga Kingdom and Demon Territory on a map and tells him to learn more about this world by reading the book. The next day she runs him for miles and then runs him on an incline to strengthen his chicken legs. Ken gets exhausted and falls down. Rose steps on his leg because he was slacking. Ken pants in pain, but suddenly all the soreness goes away. Rose explains she healed him with healing magic. Then she tells him to move his filthy bum. Ken starts running again. Over the next few days he makes slow progress. On a rainy day he falls flat on his face and gets even more dirty. Rose coldly says stop slacking. Ken gets angry, but just then his hand starts glowing. He understands the training is working. The next day Rose leaves her footprint on Ken's cakes. She says his progress is too slow and from now on training will be even harder. From then on Ken gets his cakes thoroughly baked every single day. He has to learn healing magic just to function. A few days later he never gets tired from his magic and runs alongside Rose's other students. Yet Rose remains harsh with him. Ken silently vows to get stronger and make her eat dirt. The next day Rose gives him a break from running and makes him do push-ups. Every time his muscles get sore, Ken restores them with healing magic. Seeing this, Rose finally explains that she trains this way so he can run away from enemies as fast as possible. His job will be to carry injured allies to safety. The faster you run, the more lives you save. With this new understanding, Ken continues training and does both running and push-ups in a single day. Just as he gets the hang of it, Rose puts extra weights on him and sends him right back to square one. The next day, another trainee named Tong eats Ken's lunch. Ken gets so angry that he chases after him with the extra weight still on. A week later, Kazuki and Suzune make a surprise visit. They see Ken doing push-ups with a concrete block on his back and Rose sitting on him. When Ken slows down, Rose starts trash talking. Ken's patience snaps and he roasts Rose. Rose punishes him by dropping another concrete block on his back, but Ken powers through and completes the push-up. Seeing this, Rose finally acknowledges his worthless existence. She says he has been promoted from filthy to trash. Suzune starts drooling over Ken's thick muscles, awakening her inner daddy issues. Kazuki gets concerned about his well-being. Just then, Knight Commander Siglas grabs Rose by the throat and scolds her for ruining a young man's bright future. Rose says, "Scram, Ken is my student and I will train him however I want." She also says she will make Ken her right-hand man because he is a tough cookie who has survived all her training. Ken cannot believe Rose is praising him. Rose tells Ken to take a break and visit his friends. They sit under a tree and Ken notices a blonde girl sitting with them. She introduces herself as Princess Celia. Ken drops to his knees and apologizes for being casual. Celia says she prefers a formal atmosphere. She then pulls out a tasty-looking pie and gives some to everyone. Kazuki asks if Ken does such harsh training every day. Ken says today's training was pretty light. Kazuki tells him his own training schedule and says his mentors take good care of his well-being. Ken says Rose brutally pounds him every day. Suzune lifts Ken's shirt and starts drooling over his six-pack, awakening her inner daddy. Kazuki asks how Ken acts normal after such harsh training. Ken admits that at first he wanted to run away, but now he has started liking his new routine. He shows his magic and says he wants to become useful like them. Suzune asks if she gets in trouble, will he give her CPR? Ken says she will not need help because she is not normal. Just then Tong arrives with food. Ken death stares him because Tong had stolen his lunch earlier. A brawl breaks out between them. Celia gets worried about Ken's safety. Kazuki says Ken will be fine because this is an average Tuesday for him. Suzune also agrees that Ken looks happy here. Both of them head back to the castle while Ken enjoys the battle with his new friend. That night Ken is in the shower, remembering that Suzune had been drooling over him. His body has become a powerhouse, but Ken asks himself whether his mind is equally strong. The next day at breakfast, Rose throws a heavy bag at his face. This is her formal way of inviting him to go outside. She takes him to the border, scares the guards to let them pass, and then they arrive at a forest called the Darkness of Linger. Rose tells him this forest is full of monsters. He is not to come back until he hunts a grand grizzly. Ken starts having a fit because grand grizzlies are basically the final boss of bears. Rose says you can do it and shoves him into the forest. Ken starts free-falling and panics. Then he remembers he is the protagonist. He uses his healing powers to cushion his landing so his bones don't break. After that, he hypes himself up that this is a piece of cake. But then a giant white bear shows up and brings him back to reality. Ken runs to save his life. He recalls all his training and decides to fight. Just then, two blue bears also join in. Ken runs again and finds himself at the top of a waterfall. He jumps down and escapes the bears. Soaking wet, he sits on a tree branch waiting for his clothes to dry and eat some food. As the sun starts setting, he calls it a day. The next day, he marks his base and heads out into the forest. He leaves markings along the way so he can easily find his way home. After some searching, he finds a tree with claw marks. He immediately puts his guard up. Just then, a rabbit comes out of a bush and it is injured. Ken heals the bunny with healing magic. He then sets out to find the bear, but the bunny starts following him. Ken says shoo away because monsters are chasing him, but then he realizes the bunny is leading him toward the bear's base. After finding the bear's home, Ken goes to the river to fill water. The bunny comes along again. Ken decides to make it his friend. Later, he watches the bears sleeping and realizes he is actually enjoying himself. But the next day, he gets sick from the river water. Healing magic does not work. He is suffering when his bunny friend comes back and comforts him. The next day, the bunny takes him to a pond where the water is safe. Ken is checking the water when the bunny suddenly gets scared and climbs a tree. Ken looks up and sees a giant snake with bloodlust radiating from its body. Ken gets so scared he forgets to breathe and silently vows to stay away from snakes. A few days later, he watches the bears again. Although their family looks cute, he will still have to kill them to go home. The next day, he finally decides to attack the bear. But when he arrives at their home, he sees they have already been sliced and killed. Seeing the bite marks, Ken understands this was the snake's doing. The snake had hunted the bears not for food but for fun. Just then, he sees a baby bear alive in the rubble. The baby bear is crying for its dead parents. Seeing this hits Ken's nerves hard. He makes a promise to the baby bear that he will avenge its parents. Meanwhile, Suzune and Kazuki come to Rose's place to see Ken. They find out Ken has been training in the forest for the past 10 days. Kazuki gets worried because Ken has been gone longer than your dad has ever been. But people say Rose calls the shots around here and they cannot bring Ken back without her say. On the way back, Kazuki shares his concern with Suzune. Suzune assures him that Ken has plot armor and will come back soon. Meanwhile, Ken prepares a wooden spear for himself and tells his rabbit friend to lead him to the snake. The bunny reluctantly agrees. After some travel, Ken finally locates the snake, but is shocked because the baby bear has also come along for revenge. Scared but determined, Ken tells himself he has seen scarier things. He charges at the beast and pops its eye like a balloon. In pain, the snake throws Ken against a tree, but Ken heals himself with magic and takes out a knife to defend himself. When the snake bites his arm, Ken endures the pain and stabs it from inside. The snake lets go. Suddenly, Ken feels poison in his blood. Without any prior experience, he cures the poison. When the snake attacks again, the baby bear helps Ken. This allows Ken to land on the snake's head. First, he knocks it out with brutal punches and then drives the wooden spear into its skull, and finally sends the snake to meet God. After this, the baby bear starts cuddling with Ken, but Ken could barely move after taking so many hits. Just then, he realized every Dark Souls boss has a second phase, and the snake came back to life. Ken started cursing Rose for sending him to his death, but at the last moment Rose arrived, and in one move stepped on the snake's head and finished it off. Ken wondered how she got there. Then he found out that the bunny he had befriended was actually Rose's pet Kukuru, which she had sent to spy on him. Rose explained she had been nearby the whole time in case Ken needed help. She had not expected Ken to run into such a massive beast. She explained it was a creature created by the Demon Lord, and during the previous city invasions, Siglas had not been able to fully eliminate it, so it had escaped into the forest. Rose had also not expected the snake to defeat 2 grizzlies, because even a single grizzly could defeat an entire unit of elite troops. Ken finally understood that his cakes had been getting clapped from the very beginning. But Rose said he had not been sent there to win, but to learn to survive against something far more powerful. Then Rose admitted she had gotten interested in testing Ken's limits, so she had waited until the last moment. Just then the baby bear started growling at Rose, which made Ken understand that now he had a friend. The bear lifted him on its back because Ken still could not move. Rose declared that Ken had passed the test with flying colors. When they came out, Rose told him he was now qualified to go to the battlefield with her and had a good chance of surviving. Ken asked what she was talking about, and Rose told him the demon lord would soon attack their kingdom. Rose told Ken he would be part of the vanguard on the front lines. When Ken asked what the other healers would do, Rose said their roles were different. Ken said he was still not as strong as Rose, but Rose said they still had time, and she would kick his cakes into shape. Meanwhile, the demon lord summoned a busty commander named Amelia who had massive jugs. Amelia reported that the forces were ready to attack Linga Kingdom. The demon lord reminded her that last time the humans had escaped their hands, so this time Amelia would need to go all out. Amelia assured she would succeed. Then she went into the halls and let out a sigh of relief. Just then Dr. Hayrux appeared and started teasing her. When Amelia was leaving, Hayrux told her he had created a new demon prototype. This sparked Amelia's curiosity, and she went to his lab where Dr. Hayrux showed her a giant snake monster named Balnak. Amelia remembered she had created a similar one before that had gone missing during the previous city invasion. Hayrux told her what had happened to the previous one, which was why this time he had made it even stronger. Amelia thought it would be good against the kidnappers. She was referring to the medics who carried injured people to the rear and prevented deaths. Their leader Rose was the itch in Amelia's cakes that she could not scratch. Amelia wanted to defeat Rose, but being the commander of the invasion, she could not get into a direct fight herself, so she chose a badass-looking Black Knight in her place. The next day, Ken woke up on his soft bed. He was so homesick that even Tong's snorting sounds felt like music to his ears. After that, he went to the shed to feed his new pet bear. But when Kukuru also asked for food, Ken shooed it away because it had tricked him during the test. Then Kukuru started cuddling, and that is why Ken stopped pretending to be angry and fed it too. Ken decided to name the bear Blue Rain, but Rose appeared and said he was worse than Elon Musk at naming things. Rose explained she had gotten permission from the king to keep the bear, but it would remain the rescue team's property. Rose grinned at Blorin and threatened that if it slacked, she would make it into lunch, causing the bear to hide in fear. Later, Rose told Ken to carry Blue with extra weights on. This was to simulate a battlefield situation. Ken started walking thinking it would be easy, but then Tom and the rest of the rescue team members ambushed him. Ken did not understand what was happening, so they told him they were simulating the battlefield. This made Ken run even faster. He kept getting ambushed and kept dodging. After 4 hours of running and dodging, Ken collapsed from exhaustion. Just then Rose appeared and said she spends more time in bed than Ken lasted on the field. Rose used her magic to restore his muscles and told him to rest because they were doing the same thing again. A little while later, Ken was carrying Blorin around the castle area, but everyone was treating this as normal, which confused Ken. He stopped at a fruit seller and asked why people were so calm even with him carrying a monster. The lady told him it was because everyone knew he was from the rescue team, and people were used to seeing their team do such things. Ken thanked the lady and moved on. Just then a cat girl named Amako took an interest in him. Meanwhile, Ken kept running when a blonde guy noticed him and ran behind him to get his attention. After the guy fell flat on his face, Ken finally noticed and healed his leg. He then asked why he was embarrassing himself. The guy introduced himself as Org. He was a healer from the rescue team who was training with the other heroes. Org complimented Ken for being able to keep pace with Rose's training. He admitted that he and his sister had not been able to manage, so they had opened a clinic in the city. Ken asked why Org had collapsed earlier, and Org said he was pretty bad at using healing magic on himself. Still, he and his sister helped the rescue team when needed. Hearing this, Ken remembered what Rose had said. Org told him he would be at the rear where they would bring Tong and other injured people. Ken said he would be on the front lines. Org said the front was only for the strongest knights who, when they fell, were often left to die. If there were no frontline healers, Org knew it was the toughest job, which was why he was sure Rose would not send Ken there unless she had complete trust in Ken's abilities. Ken thanked him for the motivation and started to leave, but Org told him not to hate Rose because she was a softie on the inside. Taking Org's advice, Ken ran off. Just then, Org's sister Yuru arrived and started scolding him for being late. Ken arrived at the castle gate and asked the guard for permission. The guard let him in because Rose had already told them in advance. Inside, he ran into Suzune. The two of them took a break from their training and caught up. Ken noticed that Suzune's hand was bruised from training, so he gently held her hand and healed it with healing magic. Suzune blushed and said she was flattered that Ken had come to see her. But when Ken said he had also come to see Kazuki, Suzune understood why he had been a lonely virgin back at school. Suzune told him that Kazuki was at the border with Commander Siglas doing monster hunting to gain battle experience. After Kazuki came back, Suzune would go hunting. Ken already knew Suzune would enjoy the slaying because she had been excited ever since their first day here. After that, Ken carried Blorin again and moved on. That night, Ken arrived back and put Blorin to sleep, then found Rose gazing at the moon. Ken went over and said that before hearing about going to the front lines, he had been Mr. Participants, but now he had a new goal: to protect people like Suzune and Kazuki. So from tomorrow he would train even harder. Seeing Ken's resolve, Rose gave him encouragement. Ken got hyped and finally started feeling like he was part of the team. The next day, Rose woke him up and told him the king had summoned him to join training outside the castle with Suzune. On the way, Ken asked why they were only going with Suzune and not Kazuki. Rose said Kazuki had refused the request the last time because he had gotten injured. This time, Rose had not been able to refuse the request, which was why Ken was tagging along purely as a safety measure, meaning do not try to be a hero. A little while later, Ken met up with Suzune. Suzune got excited seeing Blue Rain again. She introduced Ken to her squad mates, Aruku the Knight and Oki the Mage. Ken thought he had seen Aruku somewhere before, so Aruku mentioned he worked as the castle gatekeeper. Among the pleasant trees, Rose sternly told Suzune that Ken's healing magic could heal injuries and poison but could not revive the dead. So be careful. Then Rose turned to Ken and said to not disappoint her the way he had disappointed his parents, and left. Meanwhile, Kazuki was practicing with his sword when someone came and started scolding him for not resting. Kazuki said he was fine and flexed his muscles to prove it. This awakened something primal in that person, so she ran away in embarrassment. Ken and the others had already started their journey toward the darkness of Linga, which was the same forest Ken had been in before. Ken was wondering if carrying Blorin back there would feel nostalgic to the bear. Just then, Suzune tried to pet the sleeping Blorin like a crazy person. Ken swatted her hand away and asked if she had a head injury or had always been this stupid. Suzune got annoyed because Ken was treating her like a bro. Blorin woke up from all the yapping. Ken said now walk on your own feet, but the baby bear was still very sleepy. Suzune said she would carry it on her back, but the moment the bear put its feet on her, Suzune got crushed under its weight. Later, they started walking again. Suzune apologized to Ken because his healing magic had to be used earlier because of her. Just then, Korin sensed multiple creatures approaching. They turned out to be nasty bandits who had not touched a woman or water in months. They demanded valuables from Ken and the squad, but Suzune got excited seeing them. When one of them threatened to make Blorin into a doormat, Pikachu got furious and thunderbolted them. As the rest charged in, Suzune electrocuted them too. Just then, Korin sensed something more. Soon a horde of fall boars ambushed them. Despite Blorin's help, Ken and Suzune got thrown into the air. Ken used healing magic to ensure a safe landing, but they fell into a stream. Ken immediately understood they were above a waterfall. He told Suzune to brace for impact. The next thing he remembered was waking up with Suzune trying to carry him to shore. Suzune said she would protect him with her life, but Ken said he was not her Barbie doll, so Suzune pushed him away. Ken healed her wounds, and Suzune apologized for getting him into this mess. Ken said don't worry, he just got his man versus wild moment. The sun was setting, so Ken suggested sleeping in a tree like last time. but Suzune did not know how because her parents had never allowed it. Ken realized Suzune was Elon Musk's daughter, so he suggested spending the night in a cave. He then told her to change her clothes. Suzune started blushing and thinking about flashing her melons. Later, Suzune caught fish with magic in the river and cooked them over a campfire. Ken started taking off his clothes to dry them, and Suzune turned her face toward the wall because she was in her wild time of the month. Just then, some cute monkeys appeared in the cave. Ken warned they were poisonous, but Suzune started petting them anyway because they looked cute. The monkey bit her and Ken had to heal her. Meanwhile, Kazuki found out Ken and Suzune were missing, so he set out to find them. Rose suddenly appeared and said don't worry, because Ken has plot armor and he will also protect Suzune. Ken noticed Suzune was getting sleepy, so he offered to keep watch through the night. But Suzune insisted Ken should sleep first because he had already used healing magic several times. A little while later it started raining. Suzune suddenly became Soma and asked what Ken felt about being summoned to this world. Ken said he still missed home a little. Suzune answered that she would never want to go home because before she was shackled by expectations, and now she was free. Ken said his life had also been boring, and he had wanted a big change. After having his routine so violently flipped, this was exactly what the doctor ordered. Seeing these common things between them, Suzune felt motivated to protect this kingdom. Ken also joined in and said forget the old world and build this new one. Suzune said Ken had matured and being around him made her feel good. This awakened Johnny Sins inside Ken, but he was still shy, so he pretended to fall asleep. Suzune found this cute. The next day they went back into the forest. They heard something approaching and prepared for battle, but it was Blorin who jumped into Ken's arms. Aruku also came along and collapsed from exhaustion. Aruku explained Blorin had picked up Ken's scent and ran off, so he had chased it until he was exhausted. Just then Blorin picked up another scent and led them to the place where its parents had been. After paying their respects, Blorin signaled that it was now ready to leave, but Ken was still feeling sad for it. Suzune extended her hand and suggested they head back. Ken gladly held her hand. Upon arriving back at the royal palace, Lloyd apologized for putting them in this mess. Ken assured him it was fine because he had seen worse. Lloyd asked about training. Ken nervously glanced at Rose and said he was enjoying every single day because there was a fear of getting coconuts cracked. After that, Ken and Suzune were dismissed. Ken became curious because Rose and Siglas had been asked to stay for an important matter. Just then Kazuki came running with Celia and started scolding them for worrying everyone. But Ken and Suzune were acting like they had just returned from a theme park, which confused Kazuki. Sitting outside, Kazuki told them Rose had not let him go look for them because Rose was sure they would manage. Kazuki thinks Rose has faith in Ken's abilities, while in reality, Ken had gone through far worse situations, which was why the forest was a walk in the park for him. After that, they all started talking. Suzune's stupid antics make Celia find them very cute. Later, she tells Kazuki that he looks very happy being with his friends. Kazuki says it is because they are all from the same world. This makes Celia sad, and she asks if there is room for her in his heart too. Then she tells him to call her by her first name. Kazuki agrees. Meanwhile, at the king's side, Rose, Siglas, and advisor Sergio arrive. Sergio says the boars that attacked the hero's party lived in the deep part of the forest. It seemed they were fleeing from something. Lloyd thinks it is the Demon Lord's army's doing, so he tells Siglas to get all forces ready and tells Sergio to inform the ministers. Finally, only Rose remains. She understands she will be sent to find the demon army's location. Lloyd apologizes to her, but Rose politely agrees. She says this work is right for her because she has been running faster since before your father was even born. Before she leaves, Lloyd tells her to become commander again like before. But Rose refuses because she does not think of herself as good enough. Lloyd tries to persuade her, but Rose remembers how many soldiers had died under her command. The scar on her eye reminds her that she is not worthy to command. That is why she had created the rescue team, to atone for her mistakes. But she has one more goal, to find a subordinate who never dies. After years of searching, she has found the perfect kid. He has so much plot armor that Rhaenyra would look like an amateur next to him. She lists all of Ken's qualities, and the biggest thing is that he never gives up no matter how much Rose torments him. Suddenly she realizes she has been talking too much. She apologizes and heads out on patrol. That night she leaves a note for Ken telling him to deliver a letter somewhere while she goes out for some business. Meanwhile, Amelia is getting demons in heavy rain to build a bridge. But the Black Knight considers her a dramatic girl, which makes her very angry. When she argues with the Black Knight, he gets tired of her words and walks away. Hayrux comes and tells her the bridge is almost complete. Amelia gets happy that it is time to crush human skulls. Just then her men spot a human scout, but Amelia says to ignore it and keep focus on the bridge. Suddenly the scout throws a massive log, which destroys the bridge. Amelia looks up and sees Mommy Rose forming a final boss aura. Seeing this reminds Amelia of their previous fight, but Rose was only scouting, so she runs away. The next day Ken is delivering that letter in the city. On the way he runs into the same fruit seller from before and Amako gets his attention. Soon he arrives at the house where the letter was to be delivered. It turns out to be Yuru and Org's clinic. Yuru calls him inside. Yuru starts introducing herself, but Ken gets tired of her talking and directly asks to see Org. She takes him to the examination room where Ken sees Org using healing magic. This makes Ken realize that Org is far ahead of him in healing. Later, Ken gives Org the letter while Yuru and Ken are talking. Org reads the letter and gets nervous and puts it back in the envelope. Yuru explains that she and Org had been very excited when Rose became their mentor, but the training had been so dangerous they could not keep up and had to quit. She also says Rose seems much happier lately. Ken thinks it is probably because she found a new punching bag. Just then a local comes running and reports an accident. Everyone immediately heads to the site and sees 3 injured people. Everyone takes care of 1 person each. Ken realizes this is his first major injury case. He wonders whether he is ready to see even worse on the battlefield. Just then Org says encouraging words and reminds him of what Kazuki had said. Ken focuses and heals all the injured. On the way back, Org and Yuru praise his skills and say that whenever he is free to come help at the clinic. But Ken has main character things to do, so he leaves. Yuru praises Org for calming Ken down, but suddenly Org becomes serious and tells her that Rose's letter told them to prepare for war. Yuru's face falls. Org says he is worried about Ken because Ken has never been in battle before. He believes Rose must have trained Ken specifically for this day. Still, he wants to help and reassures Yuru that everything will be fine. Meanwhile, Ken picks up some fruits and moves on. But a macaque stops him and starts spouting nonsense about him being a messiah. The moment Ken looks into her eyes, he gets a vision of battle. He sees a Black Knight cutting down everyone he knows, including Suzune and Kazuki. Amako says she did Ken a big favor and runs off, but this causes permanent damage to Ken's mind. Terrified, Ken chases after Amako, but she disappears from his sight and Ken is left uneasy. Ken goes to the gatekeeper and asks if he saw her. The man says no. Just then Rose appears and asks what is happening. The gatekeeper leaves out of fear of Rose. When Ken makes some crude remark about Rose, she grabs him by the face and lifts him up as punishment. After letting him go, she explains she was on patrol and saw the Demon Lord's army crossing the river and building a bridge to enter Linga. She destroyed the bridge. But when Ken asks if that is what scouting means, Rose grabs his face again. Later on the way back, Ken asks Rose about Amako. Rose explains she is a fox girl who suddenly appeared 2 years ago. It turned out Amako had been kidnapped by slave traders, but escaped on her own. Rose further explains that beast folk have higher value because they give good sloppy toppy and also have special skills. Ken asks if those skills include creating illusions like nightmares or showing a dangerous potential future. Hearing this, Rose explains that beast kin are called oracles of time, who are the Doctor Strange of this world. These beast folk are very rare and do not leave their homes. Ken says he had read it in a book, so it would not seem suspicious. Rose tells him to go home while she goes to report to the palace. Lloyd thanks Rose for destroying the bridge, but she is quite certain that within days the demons will enter their territory. Lloyd decides he will address the people tomorrow, and tells Sergio to make preparations. Soon Suzune and Kazuki are summoned to the palace. On the way they run into Celia, who acts strangely around Kazuki and tells them to hurry to the palace quickly. When she leaves, Suzune wonders if Kazuki had turned her down for a clap because she looked sad. Meanwhile, Ken cannot sleep after Amako's vision. He wonders if Amako showed him the future because he has the power to change it. Just then, bright lights appear outside his window. He goes to look and finds Kazuki standing outside. They sit together. Ken asks if he is too excited to sleep, but Kazuki stays silent. Ken asks if he is okay. Kazuki explains the king had told them the war against the demon lord would start soon. Suzune had gotten excited, but Kazuki had become Mr. Pissipants and ran to Ken. He starts trembling and admits he is very scared of fighting. His performance in training was also not good. He says the people of this country have been very kind to him, and they have expectations of him, which scares him even more. Hearing this, Ken says he always thought Kazuki was very cool because he had assumed Kazuki was never afraid of anything. Ken admits the others probably think the same about Kazuki, which puts pressure on him, but he says Kazuki does not need to fulfill everyone's expectations all the time. Kazuki asks what Ken thinks about the war. Ken says he will go to the front lines to save others. He admits he is also scared, but he has made up his mind and will not back down. Kazuki panics and says you could die there, but Kazuki does not know that Ken is a hero. Hearing this, Kazuki slaps himself because he had been acting like a wuss the whole day. With new confidence, he promises he will fight to save others. Ken says don't get too hyped, but Kazuki's mind is made up. He thanks Ken for making him feel better. After this intense romance session, Kazuki heads back to the castle. Suzune sneaks out and teases Ken. But Ken knows she had come after Kazuki because she was worried about him. Suzune admits it and is happy that Ken encouraged Kazuki. Ken says he still does not want Kazuki to fight. Suzune grabs him and asks if he feels the same for her. Ken answers that her case is different because she had already decided to stay in this world. Suzune accepts this and goes back to the castle. The next day, Lloyd tells his forces about the coming battle and hypes them up. He reminds them they have the power of God and anime on their side. The rescue team will also be part of this war, and their amazing healers will make sure no one dies. After the morale-boosting speech, Kazuki goes to Celia's chamber. Celia understands he has come to say goodbye before the battle. She smiles and wishes him good luck. Kazuki promises he will come back. Then he calls her by her first name as she had asked. Celia blushes and after he leaves starts worrying about him. That same evening at Rose's house, Urararu gets very excited seeing Bluerin, who now looks like a fully grown bear. When she tries to pet it, Bluerin shakes off her hand, which makes her sad. Just then Ken notices Org having trouble lifting medical supplies, so he immediately runs to help. Org sees Yuru and says this is her first battle, and she is distracting herself by making herself look silly. While talking, Tong tells Ken that Rose wants to see him. Ken starts worrying about his cakes. Arriving at Rose's room, she reminds him of his role on the battlefield, but also tells him not to be clumsy with healing. Ken asks what she means. Rose explains that if he starts healing people with minor wounds, he will get in the way. Then she slides a box to him. Ken opens it and sees his own rescue team uniform, which excites him. As soon as he tries it on, Rose sternly says you are not immortal. The worst thing on the battlefield is not valuing your own life. Ken casually says he is not planning to die, but Rose grabs his face and sternly tells him not to be stupid. She also says that if she catches him being stupid, she will finish him off before the enemy gets the chance. Ken promises to value his own life first. After that, he exits the room, and despite Amako's vision, he promises he will protect Kazuki and Suzune. Soon the rescue team heads toward the border because that is where the battle will take place. Ken asks Rose what demons are like. Rose says they are demi-humans who look like them but are far stronger. Then she asks if he is scared. Ken says no, because you trained me to become a red boss. He admits that at first he only endured because he wanted to get one over on Rose. He hopes Rose will smack him across the face, but Rose stays quiet because her mind is full of memories of her subordinates who died in the previous war. She decides to share that story with Ken. 5 years ago, Rose was the commander of the Knights. Lloyd had called her and others together and gave them news of demon sightings near the forest. Although there had been no casualties, yet Lloyd said not to engage with the demons. After the meeting, Siglers asked Rose what she thought. Rose hinted that the demons might invade. Siglers felt the same and said he would keep his men prepared for the worst. Rose also decided to prepare her troops. Just then, one of her students named Al asked if the demons were really invading. Rose smacked her on the head for eavesdropping. On the way home, Al was fully confident they would easily defeat the demons, but Rose told her to take it more seriously. After returning to base, Rose was already quite annoyed and told her students to train harder. But they all started beating up Al because she was the reason they were going to get smacked. A week later, Lloyd told Rose the demons were getting closer, so the scouts should advance and engage if necessary. That night, Rose told her students they would be scouting the forest the next day. Everyone else was worried, but Al was very excited to fight. When the others started beating Al up for being a blank, Rose sternly said this mission was dangerous and she would personally go with them. This boosted their morale. The next day, the squad searched for demons for hours, but found none, so they decided to camp for the night. Al said tomorrow they would go deeper into the forest. Even though the others knew this was dangerous, they agreed with Al because she was their deputy commander. That night, Rose stayed awake for watch, but noticed Al also could not sleep. So she called her over to the fire. Al asked why she had been chosen as deputy when she was just average. Rose said precisely because she was the best among all of them. Rose also said Al would become commander after her. Al got flustered because it was all so sudden. She thought she was not right for this job because she never listened to anyone and did whatever she wanted. That had been the case until she met Rose, who had beaten her up until she got into shape. For Rose, this was a normal Tuesday, but for Al it was different. Al said most people got tired of her antics, but Rose never gave up. Al believes the others felt the same about Rose because Rose understood them best. That is why Al thinks only Rose can be commander. Hearing this, Rose gave her a finger flick on the forehead and said she was just a brat who did not want to leave the nest. Rose told her that precisely because she understood them best, she would not hand command to someone unworthy. Rose believed Al was right for this job because she had a never-give-up attitude and people would naturally follow her. After some encouraging words, Rose called lights out and told everyone to sleep. Al noticed everyone was listening to her. Her squad mates told Al she was the right choice to become deputy, which made Al blush a lot. The next day, the squad found traces of demons. The monsters were in the forest, and they followed the trail to a demon camp. The demon commander immediately noticed their presence and called out to them. So Rose stepped forward and asked why the demons were hunting monsters in human territory. Instead of answering, the demon commander said he could not let them leave alive because they had seen everything. So Rose took full command of the squad and charged directly at the demon commander. The commander used a wind spell to try to cut her, but Rose dodged with super speed and sent him flying into the dense forest. However, she did not land a clean hit, and her own leg also got cut. So she decided to chase the commander and finish him off. She uprooted a full tree from the forest and threw it at the commander and crushed him like a bug. But the commander powered up and trapped her in a tornado of wind blades and started cutting her. Surprisingly, Rose activated her healing and took all the hits directly. She finally earned the demon commander's respect. He introduced himself as Nero and pulled out his special weapon. He promised he would go all out now and end this battle right here. Rose immediately noticed the sword was full of curses, so she avoided it and sent Nero flying back into the camp. Then Nero saw his demon soldiers struggling against Rose's troops. This made him understand humans were not as weak as he had thought. However, he declared that their true lord would soon awaken and would answer everyone who had suppressed him. Seeing red aura around his body, Rose suddenly realized she had made a very big mistake. Just then, a dead demon became a zombie and grabbed one of Rose's students. Even though Rose attacked the demon, it would not let go and slammed a hammer on the student's head. Both of them died right there. After that, Rose's students started falling one by one, and all of this was because of the cursed sword which had made the demons incredibly powerful. Rose watched in horror and carelessly attacked Nero, but he wounded her eye. Rose was no longer in control and was being read easily. When Rose started healing herself, Nero told her that his sword was cursed, and any wound made by it was resistant to healing. Even so, Rose pushed forward, but was quickly overwhelmed to the point where she could not even defend herself. Right at the moment when Nero swung his sword, someone jumped in front and took the hit which killed them instantly. Rose looked to the side and understood all her subordinates had died. This reminded her of their confidence before the mission and how much they had trusted Rose's healing ability. In that moment, Rose realized she had been blinded by her own power. So when Nero swung at her again, she reached her hand out and grabbed the sword. Now filled with rage, she gave Nero a 90s housewife treatment. But right at the moment she was about to finish him off, she spotted young Amelia, Nero's helpless student who could not bear to watch her master die. Seeing Amelia's tearful eyes, Rose saw a reflection of Al which shattered her from the inside. She understood that demons were no different from humans. Just then she heard Al's voice and crawled over to her and started trying to heal her wounds. But the healing was not working as Nero had said. Al told Rose not to waste magic because she was happy to die fighting alongside her. She said the others had all felt the same way, and with her last breath Al witnessed Rose's entire squad die. Rose let out a scream of pain. Later she returned to the palace and told everyone the demon lord would soon be reviving. But the sorrow on their faces about Rose's squad was clearly visible. Rose told Lloyd to remove her from the commander position and also strip her of her knighthood, and the king respected her wish and granted it. When she came home with her head hanging down, two elderly people welcomed her and told her they were Josh's parents whose son had died in the previous battle. Rose apologized for not being able to protect Josh, but his parents thanked her for bringing Josh's body back. At least they got to see their son one last time. After that, Rose returned to her empty home where the squad's leftover equipment was still lying around, and she curled up in a corner. A month later, Siglers came to visit her. Rose told him she was thinking about joining her students in the afterlife, but Siglers grabbed her in anger, then let go because he knew she was very hurt. He noticed the wounds from the cursed sword were healing, and Rose concluded the curse was temporary. This meant she could also heal her eye, but she refused because it reminded her of that scene. She decided she would live so that everyone's sacrifice would not be in vain, but she did not know what to do with her life now. Later, she sat in the quiet living room and thought about how lively it used to be there with everyone. She started blaming herself for being fragile and weak. She thought about what her students would say if they saw her in this emo stage. Suddenly she went crazy and created an illusion of Al who was trying to cheer her up. The rest of the entire squad also appeared and said, "Stop the crying and be who you have always been." This finally gave Rose the chance to cry and grieve. After that she regained her composure and promised she would create a new squad that would save lives. So she started looking for recruits for the rescue team. Right now she is telling Ken that in all these years, he is the only one who has been this efficient in both healing and fighting after Al. That is why she believes he will not die. Meanwhile, the demons have rebuilt the bridge, and the Black Knight is ready to play Fruit Ninja with their bodies. Although Amelia had warned them about the medics because she had seen what Rose can do. But getting the chance to fight someone that's strong makes the Black Knight feel even more alive. A few days later, the human forces had set up camp near the border and Ken woke up early to clear his mind. He saw Suzune was also awake, and she enthusiastically started showing him her new armor, hoping he would fall for her and give her backshots. She explained the armor was designed to support thunder magic and also gave agility. In her excitement, she awakened her inner daddy and started bothering Ken, but Kazuki appeared and stopped her. He told Suzune that Commander Siglers wanted to see them, and she left, but promised she would come back for Ken's sausages. Later, Siglers told the heroes that the demons would attack in 1 hour, and they were expected to cut through the front lines and clear the path to the enemy commander. When they were taking their stations, Suzune told Kazuki not to be a hero, but he said he would be fine. He teased Suzune to use Ken as a distraction, and even though she agreed, she said she was very excited for the battle. Kazuki noticed how much she had changed since coming here, and Suzune said it was all because of Ken, who had accepted her completely as she was. Just then the demon army appeared, and the mages immediately fired spells toward them. Then they found out it was just an illusion, and the real enemy was attacking from the west. When Suzune and Kazuki headed west, Rose sent the rescue team to bring back the injured, and told Organ Yuru to stay ready to heal while Aruka would guard them. For Ken, Rose said when combat injuries increased, she would come with him to the front. Within seconds, Tong returned with some injured knights, and the squad started healing them. One of them told Ken that he had been attacked by a giant snake that was still causing chaos on the battlefield. The Black Knight was watching from a distance when suddenly a soldier came from behind and stabbed him. Not only was there 0 damage, but the soldier himself got injured, without the Black Knight moving a single muscle. When the soldier was about to die, a rescue team member pulled him away, and the Black Knight remembered Amelia's warning about these medics. All of this was making the Black Knight even more psycho-excited, but when he spotted distant thunder magic, he went to check it out. Later, when the camp got busier, Rose told Ken it was now their turn to go outside. Ken said he was ready. As they were rushing out, Rose told Ken about the black armor guy who was very dangerous, and this reminded Ken of what he had seen in his vision. Suddenly, when he stopped, Rose saw the look on his face and asked if he had the guts to take lives. Ken said his job was only to save lives. But Rose called him a knife fool and gave him some secret advice that would keep him alive if no other option remained. With that, she told him to take the right flank, and both of them went their separate ways. Ken reached the front lines and immediately rescued a knight. On the left flank, Rose was doing the same. After that, Suzune used her thunder magic and defeated several demons. But she also felt some regret, so she pushed forward with Kazuki. Suddenly, the Black Knight appeared with some backup, which sent chills down everyone's spines. Some soldiers attacked him, but again their attacks dealt no damage and they themselves got injured. Kazuki carelessly tried to attack the Black Knight, but Suzune pushed him so his attack hit the knight's shoulder. Kazuki asked what she was doing, and Suzune said the Black Knight was using a reflect skill. Just then, Kazuki felt sharp pain in his shoulder, and this confirmed her theory. Hearing this, the Black Knight got interested in Suzune and challenged her to a duel. Meanwhile, Ken suddenly got a vision of Suzune's death and felt sharp pain in his head, which nearly got him cut. Luckily, the knight he had healed a little while ago came back and saved him. Thanking him, Ken rushed toward the front lines to save Suzune and Kazuki. Meanwhile, Suzune had thought of a secret plan to defeat the Black Knight, even though it looked dangerous. Kazuki agreed to go along with it. She used her lightning to create a dust cloud and used it as cover to deal damage. But the Black Knight used Reflect to return the damage to her. However, the damage that hit the Black Knight's back had not been reflected, so she told Kazuki to fire one more shot. This time, Kazuki used his light magic to blind the knight, while Suzune used her lightning magic to become a flash and stabbed it from behind. She concluded the Black Knight could not use Reflect because it had not seen the attack coming, so she told Kazuki to now attack head-on. Just as Kazuki leaped in, the Black Knight revealed it had been blushing and stabbed Kazuki in the chest. It also returned the damage from Suzune's previous attack. Kazuki was on the verge of death. Suzune realized she had made a mistake and fell to her knees. In that moment, she remembered her first meeting with Ken on Earth. Unlike her, who had always wanted to escape her life, Ken was different. He worked extra hard to fit into his new role. He had accepted her exactly as she was, and this made her feel like she could do anything in this world. But now she was just 2 seconds from death. But Ken came running and smacked the Black Knight right in the face. Then he looked at his friends in horror, but when he found out they were still alive, he started healing their wounds. Just as Suzune regained consciousness, the Black Knight stood up with its mask half broken. She screamed at Ken. Then she regenerated her mask and charged at Ken. But Ken grabbed his friends and started running. When the Black Knight caught up, Ken finally stopped, and Suzune told him what skills the knight had. Although Ken's punch had somehow worked, which meant he was the only one who could fight it. Hearing this, Ken charged head-on at the knight. While dodging its attacks, he closed the distance and punched it in the face. Once again, its armor broke, and this sent it into a rage. It started attacking recklessly. Just then, Kazuki also woke up, and both heroes were stunned watching Ken go toe-to-toe with the Black Knight. Just then, the knight pierced Ken's hand, but its armor started melting, which made Ken wonder why its attacks were not working against him. Suzu noticed Ken was continuously healing his body on the go, meaning every time he touched it, he was also healing it. Finally, it clicked that the Black Knight's biggest weakness was healing magic, and Ken was accidentally healing it into defeat. In reality, the injuries from Ken's fists were healing faster than the knight could use Reflect, but the sheer impact of Ken's fists was causing it tremendous pain. Just as the Black Knight fell to its knees, it could not understand why its skill was not working, and in anger it pulled out its ultimate weapon. However, Ken gave zero fucks and charged head-on. He carefully dodged its attack, and with full strength punched it in the gut, calling it a healing punch. Then he used strong healing magic on its body, which completely destroyed its armor and knocked it out. With their commander captured, the demons fled, and Ken was declared the war hero. Suzu thanked him for saving her life. Then she asked where the idea for the healing punch had come from, and Ken told her it was because of Rose. Earlier, when he had said he did not want to take lives, Rose had told him to imbue healing magic into your fist and punch someone, and it would knock them out without killing them. Just then, Kazuki reported that the snake had now come to the front line, and they immediately decided to go there. However, Rose stopped Ken and asked him to explain why the heroes nearly died when he was supposed to cover them. Ken told her everything, and Rose was impressed that he had defeated the Black Knight alone. Then she told him to come back to camp because the battle was now under control. She informed the others and ran back. Meanwhile, Amelia was horrified to hear that her strong guest soldier had been captured by humans. She asked an informant who had done it, and he said it was a rescue team member in fighting uniform. She had assumed it was Rose, but the informant said it was someone else. Hearing this, she told Rarest to call back the snake because they were withdrawing. She believed they did not have enough forces to defend, and the humans had not even deployed their budget commander Erwin yet. Rarest tried to call back the snake, but when he tried to command it, he found Suzu and Kazuki standing in front of it ready to redeem themselves. At camp, everything was going smoothly when everyone saw a huge flash of light and thunder in the sky, which was a signal that the heroes had defeated the snake. With this, Rose declared they had won this battle, but the demons would return for round 2. Rose gave the heroes credit for today's success, because if Ken had not healed the healers and defeated the Black Knight, they might have lost this battle. For the first time in many years, Rose smiled and told the hero she was proud of him, and everything Ken had been through suddenly felt worth it. This touched him so deeply that tears came to his eyes, and he admitted he had been scared of death when he went to the front lines. Still, he was happy to fight alongside Rose, which reminded her of Al, who had once said the exact same thing to Rose. Rose finally felt she had redeemed herself and praised the hero for staying alive. Just then, the hero collapsed from exhaustion into her arms. After the war, the hero was chilling in the shed with Blorin, and remembering that the king had publicly declared him a hero. Just then, one of his subordinates came and told him he had been summoned to the castle and should be careful passing through town. Confused, the hero headed toward the castle, and on the way, fans surrounded him. He somehow made it to the castle gates where Aruku was on guard duty and thanked him for saving his comrades. After talking with Aruku for a bit, he went to the throne room where Siglas told him he needed help interrogating the Black Knight. When the hero asked why, Siglas said she was refusing to say anything until her demand was met, and the demand was to meet the hero. When he headed toward the dungeon, Suzu also tagged along because she had called dibs on his sausages. The hero reminded her she had already lost to the Black Knight, but Suzu got annoyed and said that was an unfair battle. Siglas then revealed that the Black Knight uses dark magic, which cancels healing magic, meaning the hero's punches had been far more brutal than he thought. The hero asked Siglas if she had received medical attention, but when Siglas said no, the hero quickly ran toward her cell to check on her. He knew she was hurt because she had taken all his punches directly, but when she said she enjoyed pain, Suzune joked she was the freaky kind. The hero asked why she had wanted to see him, and she said she wanted to see the face of the man who had done that to her. Hearing this, the hero told Siglas to open the cell so he could give her his injection. Once inside, he placed his hand so her armor would melt, and then placed his hand on her screaming mouth and healed her wounds. As the healing effect hit her, she started crying because she had never felt anything so good before. She told the hero to hold her a little longer so she could cherish this feeling. The next day, Rose personally oversees the hero's training and reminds him the demons will attack again, so he needs to be prepared. The hero thinks she will level up his healing magic, but Rose smirks and says she will punch him really hard and he will have to dodge. The hero runs for his life and argues that if he gets hurt, he will simply heal himself. But Rose explains that wounds from cursed weapons cannot be healed. After that, she throws him upward, but he uses healing magic to land safely. Just then, Rose rushes in and punches his gut so hard he gets knocked out. Later, when he wakes up, he is relieved he can now rest, but Rose is there waiting and punches him again. After training, he visits the Black Knight and starts complaining about the harsh training, but she cannot understand why he is behaving as if they are friends. When he says he came to check on her, she gets shy and puts her armor back on and says go do some push-ups. As he is leaving, he sees Kazuki practicing light magic and Celia fangirling over him, which is very different from how Rose behaves with the hero. Kazuki then teases the hero that he made the Black Knight cry, but when the hero starts getting annoyed, Celia comforts him and says even the king acknowledges his efforts. Kazuki also admits that if the hero had not been there, he would have been dead, but then realizes he should not have said that in front of Celia. After the hero leaves, Kazuki tries to avoid Celia, but she grabs his shirt and demands he tell her everything that happened. Meanwhile, as the hero is heading home, hoping the king does not order the Black Knight's execution, Rose goes to the cells and chats with her. She tells the Black Knight she has two options: either rot in this cell or become her student. The Black Knight first tries to act rebellious, but within just a few seconds, she gets molded by Rose's terrifying persona. Rose also puts a collar on her that blocks all mana and forces her to accept the second option. Meanwhile, Ken is resting with Blorin when Rose comes back and smacks him for training even on a rest day. The hero then sees she is carrying the Black Knight on her shoulder and freaks out. But Rose explains she has come to join the rescue team. That night, Rose tells the hero that his name had also come up in her conversation with the king. The king wants to ask other nations for aid against the Demon Lord's army and has chosen 3 representatives to send to other countries. These representatives are Suzune, Kazuki, and the hero, because Lloyd believes these 3 can handle this delicate mission. The next day, the hero goes to town to buy a journal and realizes he has become a popular topic among the ladies. Just then, Suzune comes and starts flirting with him, but the hero spots Amako and rushes to catch her. As he grabs her, she says now it is time for payback and tells him to save her mother. Suzune also joins him and starts fangirling over the cute fox girl, which annoys the hero. He puts Amako down and she says they need to speak in private. Later, the Black Knight's training begins, but it is so harsh she collapses in the middle and wishes she were dead. Just then, Rose comes and smacks her cakes, which makes her run even faster. Meanwhile, the hero takes Suzune and Amako home and asks why Amako had shown him that vision where the Black Knight cut everyone down. She says she had no other choice because the heroes would have died and the kingdom would have been ruined. She admits she has the power to see the future, and when she first saw that vision, she left the Beast King's territory and set out to find a healer. She also mentions her mom has not been able to open her eyes for a long time, and she had to make sure Linga did not fall so she could get a healer to save her mom. The hero asks why she had not asked Yuru or Org. She says because they cannot fight. Suzune asks why she did not talk to Rose, but that is self-explanatory, so only the hero was left. Suzune agrees she might not even be able to go because she has another mission. The hero says he will pass through Beast territory on his journey, so he tells Amako to wait while he discusses with Rose. Rose says the Oracle of Time going missing could cause a civil war in Beaston, so she goes to inform the king and see if anything can be done about helping Amako. When the hero returns to Amako, she already knows everything because of her abilities, so she thanks the hero for the help and leaves for the day. That night, the rest of the rescue team members are eating like animals, while the Black Knight sits there regretting every choice that brought her here. The hero joins her and gives her a journal just like Rose had given him on his first day, which makes her blush. After that, she continues her training over the next few days, and one day the hero also joins her to give her a morale boost, which makes her realize he is a red boss. A few days later, she hears loud thuds coming from the forest and skips training to go investigate, only to find out the sounds are coming from Rose punching the hero in the gut. Rose is yelling at the hero because he is not dodging the attacks, but the hero argues she keeps changing the attacks every time. After yelling at each other, they start again, and the hero finally manages to dodge her attack for the first time, but drops his guard and gets punched again. Still, he cheers up because he finally passed, and the Black Knight gets terrified at how absolutely crazy he is. Later, when resting with her, he says she is turning into a monster like Rose, which makes her smack him. He then asks what her name is, and even though it is late to ask, she shyly tells him her name is Fel. Just then Blorin comes over, and the hero gets distracted, which makes Fel upset, because he gave no reaction to her revealing her name. In frustration, she runs as fast as she can, and only collapses to sleep at mealtime. That night, Fel sneaks past the dining hall and overhears Rose briefing the hero about his mission. The next day, while Fel goes on an early run, the hero takes Amako to the throne room where Lloyd bows to her and thanks her for saving the kingdom. Then Siglas tells the hero he needs to deliver the king's letter to the Mage nation, and he chose this nation because it is close to the Beast King's territory. Later, Welsi gives him detailed route information, and he will visit 3 nations delivering letters. After that, he will go to Beaston territory to help Amako. She also reveals that she and the other heroes will accompany him to the first destination. After that, he will go alone with Amako and attending knights whom he will choose himself. The hero chooses Aruku as his first knight, and he humbly accepts the mission. Then she asks about the second knight, and he points toward his lobby bear Blue Aaron. Meanwhile, Fel is out running when Rose catches her, and believes she was fleeing to demon territory to inform them about Ken's mission. However, she also notices that Fel had taken a different route, meaning she was simply training. Fel then asks why Rose is not worried about Ken going so far alone. Rose confidently says that to scratch someone of Ken's caliber would require an entire army. She then asks Fel if she was planning to follow Ken on his journey because she is obsessed with him. But Fel says no and says she is just sick of such a hard life. Rose smacks her cakes and declares it is now time to take her somewhere special. That evening, the hero tells Fel he is leaving tomorrow and playfully asks if she will miss him. Hearing this, Fel gets annoyed because he is escaping Rose's harsh training while she is stuck there and starts kicking him. When she leaves, Rose comes and tells the hero that other nations look down on healers, so if anyone tries to bully him, he has full permission to beat them to a pulp. She also acknowledges this journey will change him a lot, so she says she expects great things from him. Before he leaves, these words make the hero tear up again, but he wipes his tears and admits that getting expectations from someone as great as Rose feels something to be grateful for. The next day, he visits Org and Yuru, who wish him the best. Meanwhile, Kazuki and Suzune say goodbye to Celia and set off on this journey together to meet new people. Meanwhile, Rose takes Fel to the peak, overlooking the darkness of Linga, so she can put her through the same test that Ken had passed with flying colors. Ken is in his carriage and turns back to see